Hi everybody, welcome to this webinar about Composable Commerce. My name is Mikkel, I'm Technology Director at Impact, and today I'm lucky to have Martin, who's the CTO at TRENDHIM, with me, and Dan, who's a Senior Partner Manager at Commerce Tools. A few words about TRENDHIM. They're a global frontrunner on e-commerce, selling accessories to men. And then we have Commerce Tools, who is a SaaS leading commerce platform. So today's webinar will be split into two. Martin will start by talking about the journey that TRENDHIM have been on.
Yeah,
and then afterwards we will have a short discussion. Dan has some questions for us, so we're looking forward to that. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Okay. I'll try and do this, short and sweet, and try to give you guys some really hopefully usable advices on the journey that probably a lot of you are on, moving towards Composable, or at least considering it, or the whole Mac ecosystem. So just quickly through the agenda. I'm going to give you an introduction to TRENDHIM, just to have a bit of background knowledge and have something to compare to when we go through the slides. I'm going to do a tech recap, going through what we had, what we have now, what we're going against. Talk a bit about Composable and Mac in general, the process to getting there, the current status of everything, teaser, 1.5 years into it, key learnings, just trying to share, what we have learned doing that leap of faith, and then we're going to do a bit of Q&A, hopefully. I hope you guys will write down some questions as we go through, and give them my way so I can try and answer them. No promises though. Okay, so TRENDHIM in general, we're a direct-to-consumer company selling accessories to men. We have a goal of being the world tour destination for men's accessories. Some nice background story is that we were located in Denmark. We have the warehouse in Denmark, and then we distribute that out to the 25 countries that we are in. And we're very spread, so we've always been a very international company. So that fills up a lot, and it puts a lot of tech demands on the software that we need and the systems that we use to do that without having too much overhead. And we have 8 in-house brands. We design and produce everything ourselves, and we consider ourselves a tech company more than a fashion company, even though that we have designers and people producing in-house. And that is simply because we have so much complexity in the business, because we're in so many countries. We have more than 3 million users a month, and the engineering team size is 7. I just put there just so you don't imagine that we have a whole army of people just sitting and doing Mac and Composable. Cool. So the story starts with Magento, which were born in the late 90s. I joined TRENDHIM about 8 years ago, and we've been using Magento since that day, and we've been pretty happy with it. It was pretty good. A monolithic architecture, and we're pretty happy with just the easy going. I was the sole developer for 3-4 years or so, and it's easy. You just go into the monolith, do your thing, get things shipped. Things were good. We were happy. We could customize everything we needed. We're not locked in any way. Pretty good. There's not much to say about the start of things. So that's pretty good. And then TRENDHIM kind of grew because we expanded into a lot of countries. When I joined, we were in 1 country, and then we expanded. At some point, we opened 6 or 7 markets in 1 year. And the growth of TRENDHIM started to take off. And at some point, more came to the engineering team. We got more people. We got the business having more demands to us. We had to keep things going, right? And things were still fairly okay. The engineering team, maybe 2-3 people, is still working out okay. We're pretty satisfied still at this point. Though there were a thing where we started feeling like we were building something that might not last forever. Because at some point, a tipping point, it was not one day we woke up and then everything was broke, but at some point, things just starting, it felt like we were closing gaps, and we were slowing down basically. We had like a very nice speed to start with, and then we started slowing a bit down. And slowly, as we were growing and we were following this growth curve, it just felt like we came to a halt, or at least there's like some things in this monolith that we didn't want to touch. So that was not great for us, and we basically came to the point where we're like, okay, we're not going to touch anything that involves invoicing or like credit memos, because we burned our fingers too many times on that. And at the same time, when you grow in an e-commerce company or any company in general, you also have all the accountants, having more demands, and everything needs to be even more, strict. And you can see here this nice house. It's also composable, but maybe not so nice composable. We felt like we were building a lot of different bricks and components, but they were not, things were falling a bit apart. So that at some point led us to, that we had a lot of tight couple things. Everything was like, if we went to a corner and did something, we were not guaranteed that wouldn't break something else over in somewhere else in the company. And I just took this slide, so just to explain, if anyone's like, tight couple, what do you mean? And in general, just, if you can change your t-shirt without changing your body, that means, you have a loose coupling, you can still change your t-shirt. But if you wouldn't be able to, if you can't change like one component, then you have a tight coupling. And we wanted to reduce that just to in general, avoid that in the future. Just a quick one. So the considerations that we went into, just basically I used like half a year or so, just saying, okay, so the platform that we're on right now, maybe it's not, it feels like it's not suitable for us in the future. We're growing a lot, taking on a lot of, weight, you can say, in terms of technical depth. And we wanted to find ways to leverage also all the new technology that were coming out. But we felt like we were a bit stuck in this, the Magento monolith. And yes, even though we were adopting some of the SaaS platforms that could, be coupled on the side of the platform and integrate, together with Magento, we didn't feel like we were really leveraging it. So I basically started, researching and came out to the conclusions that we wanted to avoid replatforming again, right? Because I knew that this was going to be a considerable journey. So want to stop that, and just a lot of agility while growing. We needed to move fast and fix things as they came to us. And if we got a new need for getting something done quickly, an integration, or having a new SaaS platform boarded that could give us some leverage, also for a limited time maybe, we wanted to have that, and we didn't feel like we had it at that point. So things to avoid, tight couple systems, and just in general, no, we can't do that answer to the business because we were too afraid that we were going to break something else, and then we had to go back and fix that. So having that kind of, so here comes the glorified solutions to many of the things. What I discovered doing my research was that the SaaS, which started like a decade ago, had evolved a lot. It was no longer the closed source. That was much of the things that I was thinking when I was thinking SaaS, like, oh, it's closed source, we're going to be vendor locked, and we were afraid of many things, or I was at least, because I was used to working in an open source solution or monolith for many years. So I did that. I did the research on it, and I was really happy about what I found. The stack that we have today is Commerce Tools is actually live in production, and we have Content Stack, which is the headless CMS, which is also live in production. Commerce Tools being the e-commerce engine, maybe you know, but at least now I do. And in general, I discovered a new term like MAC, microservices, API first, cloud native, and headless. And these were just could sound like buzzwords, but in reality, it just API first, just taking one of those letters. API first is massive. It just means that even though someone else takes care of your software, then we could still, interfere. We could still pull everything out. We could modify what was in those platforms. Massive for us. And at the same time, we saw some really creative ways of extending these SaaS platforms. So I was happy. I was like to go in with, I had an open mind, but I thought that, we're going to go with another open source solution. But no. So the next thing that was pretty daunting for us was that we had this many years of technical debt, and we felt like we've built a lot of systems to automate all the processes that we had to basically, just fulfill the needs that we have, having those 25 countries, and we could not do everything by ourselves in terms of the just everyday work because we're not that many people in the company. Right now we're about, between 70 and 150, depending on how many you count. But back then, it's just a small team. So want to start finding a way where we could, how could we deal with these challenges? Like I have on the slide, the timeline was like 1 to 2 years. I was like, it's probably going to take 2, but I can do it. I can set up a team and really get this going in 1. I was wrong, but that doesn't matter because I'm going to get to it, why it doesn't matter. And simply just where to start. I didn't know like how to, what systems can I even start pulling out, because I was afraid that, if I take this, then someone else will not work. And how do I even get started with that? Do I have to go with like a big bang? And I was afraid also, because I had a lot of strain on the engineering team in general, had a lot of strain on the shoulders in terms of like delivering to the business, right? Which we're growing a lot. So just that was a concern. And just growing while we were doing this, so like growing and changing things in flight was a concern, and avoid having the process of feeling insanely slow. Basically, when you move systems, you have to take out some resources to do that, and just how do you do that and keep progress on the business at the same time. So the process in general. When I closely analyzed all the systems and really tried to break down the business areas of TRENDHIM, and really any e-commerce company and probably also other types of companies, you will find that there is areas where you can start just, pulling things out and saying, okay, this needs to communicate with other systems, yes, but we can pull it out, have it in a separate entity, having it to be best of breed, and then getting that, working together with your legacy system, which is fine for a period of time. Then you get the incremental value, because once that system goes live, it'll probably be, if you have like us, we have a lot of homebrewed systems that were doing things mediocre, and you get that when you turn that part on, it's going to be really awesome for the team or the department working with that area. For us, we started with the warehouse. So we had a homebrewed warehouse system, took a warehouse management system in, put that in. They were happy. Yes, there were challenges, there were learning curves, but things were good. And we just started doing that all over the business, and one by one, gaining the advantages of having best of breed systems. In general, just really avoid the big bangs. Get the cash in also, like you have on this, you need to get the value out, because otherwise you'll just be in a migration where you're like 1 year away and no value for a year in a company where you need to grow. That's not really great. So no final end date. For us, it's like business first. So we're gonna see, what is the concerns, and then take it from there. And there is gonna happen things to a business when we talk 1-2 years. So we're gonna adapt as we go, and winning, of course. So try to just find a business area where you can see that, you can see that you can isolate it, you can communicate with other systems, get the dependencies like sorted out. I like just using something like Lucidchart or something, just something where you can really map out and get an overview, because no one can just have that in their mental model at the same time. At least I can't. Sort them after what the business needs the most, what can unlock you the most, so you get that incremental value out. And rinse, repeat after you're done getting the systems in the air. Of course, I make it sound probably easier than sometimes it is, but that's the idea anyways, and it's been working very good for us for 1.5 years now. Wanted just to cover, because it's really great to have Mag and Composable with all your vendors on best of breed systems, but if you also have kind of the same thing internally, where you just have the monolithic pattern, and you don't have things decoupled, loosely coupled, then you'll kind of run into the same systems. And microservices that we're running is not for everyone. It's definitely, tech company. If you're not a tech company, maybe just, get some advice or something from an agency or partner up. But for us, it makes sense because we are a tech company and we have a technical team in-house that is capable. So we had the same principles about, business areas, move those into services by themselves, loosely coupled services, just try to unplatform, trying to not having to rinse, repeat this process again, in 5 years or so. So we can, just like a racing car, replacing one part at a time. Yeah. So I just wanted to have that in here. So it's like totally honesty and no like fairy tales about something that's just perfect without any bumps on the road. So 1.5 years into it, I thought it would take a year. Or I thought it would take 2 years, but I was like ambitious and said, maybe we can do it in 1 year. And there's many things that you want to get right when you do it, because otherwise you can end up, in a situation where you don't like it again. So we used a lot of time just on the architecture, getting some great input from agencies and other partners. And this is the status right now. But we have commerce tools live, Constack is live, you have the ERP, which is live, and we have 25 like internal services written in Golang, just for the curious ones. We're still missing some areas, but we're taking them step by step. And right now, we have partnered with Impact, and we're getting a lot of front-end live, just replacing that, because now many of the back-end systems is completely replaced. So we can get a lot of great, cool, even more features out to the customers that are powered by, I would say, more powerful technology than we had before. So key learnings. I wanted to make sure that the learnings and that I've had and the team had in general, that maybe just if I were to give 2 advices, that you'll get that. And one of the things is that the migrating things from some system could be like a suite or like was a monolith, an open source system, migrating that data from that system into a new composable modern stack, which is maybe made, like 10 years after your legacy systems. Just make sure you consider very carefully what you choose to migrate there. We chose to migrate all the content that we had from a legacy CMS, that we like a homebrewed one, that was pretty good. We didn't have HTML, we didn't have, that funky stuff in there. I know a lot of companies have that, and it still took us half a year to migrate that data. That was one person, of course, sitting on the project, but I think many times just having more of a greenfield approach and trying to really, get that dialogue going with the business, so you can. I think we could have done better just getting to market faster, and I've seen very good cases where big companies get really quickly out the door with these solutions because they partner up with great agencies that has some great experience also, but also because they, they're just good at checking what's the MVP for this minimal viable product. What do we need to do, and what can we skip for later? Architecture is no different with a Mac or Composable stack than it is to anything else. When you take things apart, I'm not going to lie, it's going to put some, it's going to take some effort to get it right. And again, talk to other people in the industry. There's a lot of things happening right now. A lot of people are moving. Back when we started, at least in Denmark, people were not, we're kind of some of the first movers on this. So there was not that many companies that we could talk to, at least here in Denmark. But now it's, there's a lot, especially in the e-commerce atmosphere, but also in other types of companies. And we see a direction just changing in general in terms of the whole software consumption model. So, it's really worth it in terms of investing time and effort into talking to people and agencies and partners and finding the right one. Q&A.
All right. Thanks very much, Martin. I think I love it when CTOs talk about what they do in a way that I can actually understand. So I think that was really, really good hearing about your move from Monolith to Mac. I just wanted to open up the panel discussion and also back to what you said earlier, please do ask questions on the chat, and if there's time we'll read a couple out. But to kick things off, you talked about the role of an agency or an SI. Just wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit. What is their role in a kind of a transition towards this composable approach?
I think just at least for me, I guess, in the beginning, just making sure that you take learnings from others and you just bring that into, you basically just purchase the whole glory bunch of advices and learnings that they have done, because like anything else, you can take some steps that is better than others, and just leveraging that and also understanding how we can apply Composable and Mac into your business, because it's different from each business, and just getting that business perspective is really, it's key, to unlocking the value. And that's why we're here, right? We don't make tech for the sake of tech. We make tech because we run businesses and we want to grow them and make something great. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I guess a follow-on question would be for you, Mikkel. I guess Composable and Impact have been partners for about a year now. I think we went from having 0 to 3 customers in the space of about 4 months. And, I think the strategy that you guys employ is really, really impressive. And I think, the follow-up question to that would be, what is the role of an SI or an agency in terms of the strategy towards this transition to Mac?
So of course our role is to go in and help our customers succeeding in that transition. And there are different ways of applying that. First of all, I think it's very important to have a plan of where you're going, not necessarily a plan that you can deviate from, because we are building an agile and flexible ecosystem, but have a plan that, so in the steps that you're taking towards that, so like you did, really have a plan of how can you take the right decisions going forward, so we're not navigating too far from where you're going. Then also there is the big bang. You mentioned it. It's a dangerous one. But it's one, sometimes it can be easier to scratch everything at the same time. But if we're not going with the big bang, then I think there's 2 strategies, where one of them is start replacing your underlying systems and platforms, the one that are serving the logic. So replacing CDP pricing engines, what is below the customer interfacing systems. And then of course, when you need to replace what is the customer are meeting when they see your site or app or whatever, then you need to be very clear on how little can you get away with replacing, because that's the hard part, because you're replacing everything that the customer is seeing basically. So, and try to make sure that in an e-commerce space you don't lose any revenue or any business in that period of time. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really, really interesting. I think, one of the themes that we run into quite a lot at Commerce Tools is this, the question of build versus buy. So my next question would be for you, Martin. When does it make sense to build versus buy?
Great question. And I think I'm an engineer by heart, I guess. I've always been building systems, and I like building systems, no doubt about that. Also built maybe, I don't know, too many, but I've built many systems, and I've tried running many different systems and also maintaining them. And it just makes sense when it's not your core business. So for us at TRENDHIM, it's, are we a CMS company? No, we're not. Are we gonna able to build something, a CMS that is gonna be comparable to the top Mac, SaaS vendors out there? No, we're not gonna be able to even come near to that. We could make something that probably works, but the business won't be, unlocked. They won't have the capabilities that they would have. So when does it make sense? It makes sense when it's not your core business. You want to focus all your business powers into making what makes your company unique. So for us, all the, does it contribute to the customer experience they have when they go into TRENDHIM? If the answer is no, then try and buy it. That's usually the answer that I try to go for. Try and buy it unless you can see that there's some really, really, really unique scenario that these don't cover. But I would just say that those scenarios have just narrowed so much nowadays, because the SaaS solutions are just growing stronger. The flexibility, the capabilities of them is just they're gaining so much power with the new technology arriving. So back in the days, I think it would make sense more than now, but I think you need to be careful about where you put your focus. Mm-hmm. So I guess that's my answer.
Yeah. Great. I think, we often say, build, but build using commerce tools, right? And then customize around the edges. But
yeah.
I want to broaden out the topic slightly. And you touched upon this earlier, Martin, when you said, how much SaaS is kind of evolving. Mikkel, could you talk about kind of how software consumption is progressing? And then, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it next. But Mikkel.
Yeah, so to support on what Martin said, a lot of systems are out there to support smaller roles of a digital landscape, CDP, CMS, commerce systems, and you can kind of pick them as you, it depends on what you feel matches your needs the best within that area, and that's what allows you to not build a whole monolith from scratch. So what we see is that it tends to become more modular. No surprise there, but it also tends to be more operated and maintained by the platform vendor. And also, of course, license-based follows that, but it also gives a more clear or transparent TCO for the business.
Yeah. I guess what I would like to add is just maybe a bit of CTOs talk. Just, down the basement, we used to have servers running or equipment. And that was great, but we had to patch those servers. We had to do a lot of maintenance. We had to, make sure that we have the capacity to do it. And then we had the new era where we were moving to the cloud, and we thought everything would be good. And it was kind of, now we had flexible capacity, and sometimes we could get the cloud vendor to do some of the work that we had to do before for us, and things were better. And now it seems like we're transitioning into an area where it's like, okay, so these SaaS platforms, who are the best at running those, platforms? Some have, some run it like partially, so you can run it yourself, or you can, get them to run it. And we're seeing just the transition in general towards that, okay, the people that are building it probably also the best to run it. And now, we see vendors like CockroachDB, which is like a database, distributed database, which is gaining a lot of traction with all the worldwide companies out there. They're moving towards, like serverless, just consuming software in general. So they're taking even a step forward and saying, we're not just going to run it for you. We're going to you can just, tap into this, and you're going to get something back, and you don't even have to think about what's behind the scenes. So definitely interesting. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So, Mac and Composable, these are terms that are really being used now. I think they're catching on. I think, hearing about how you've actually, implemented a Composable project, it just kind of, is testament to that. But I still think there is a slight perception in the industry of them being sort of, potential buzzwords. So I wanted to kind of ask you guys both about the differences in Mac and Composable. So, starting with you, Mikkel, what are the kind of core differences, would you say?
One of the core differences is that I think Composable is more of an ideology where we strive to create modular ecosystems that are decoupled, where each area is split in, and you have different systems supporting different roles. So you, in an agile and flexible way, can support the business and the end user's needs for that specific area, service, commerce, and all of those things. Where Mark is more of a technical approach, saying, in the decisions we take towards the way we build systems or buy systems, we want to apply those principles. We want to have something that is API based. It should be API out of the box. We don't want to build it. We want to have documented APIs. We want it to be cloud based, and we don't want it to be monoliths. So these are ideologies or sort of principles that you can apply when choosing vendors or building systems.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it like when you take something, like something that you've bought in the supermarket, and look, behind it is like an ingredient list, and they're not buzzwords. They're what the SaaS platform contains pretty much. So it's like if you're API first, you're API first. There's no buzzwording about it. There's either you can use that tag or not, and if you're in the Mac Alliance, then you're just like any fancy mark that you'll see on the products in the supermarket. You're verified that that's actually what's in it. And I think that's very good for helping customers just choosing technology that will, propel them forward. And yeah.
What do you think some of the challenges are when it comes to Mac and, implementing Mac?
I think you need to be aware that with just any system really that applies in life, when you take a thing and break it up into smaller pieces, you'll have to make sure that those pieces work together, that they can communicate, and get them to work well together. So you need to be ready for that, and you need to take on the advice and get some partners with you on that journey to make sure that you end up where your vision is. Why are you doing this all the way? Just make sure that you all the time just keep the focus on what the business goal, and does this contribute towards that or does it not?
Yeah, I think the kind of vendor-customer relationship is so important now. I think I was chatting about it with some of your colleagues yesterday. It's way more of a partnership now than it is just sort of customer-vendor relationship.
Yeah.
And that's where selecting an agency or an SI I think is absolutely key. But also having those relationships with the independent vendors as well. So
yeah.
I think I'd love to kind of pick your brain, Martin, actually about at what point would you say in your journey that it's time to migrate?
I would say for us at least, it was at a point where we could see that we were outgrowing the current platform. We could see that the vision that we had for TRENDHIM didn't fit what we had. Like the technology wouldn't be able to keep up, or it wouldn't contribute on that growth journey. It would rather just hold us back. And you want your technology to be, or at least for me as a CTO, the technology needs to contribute to that journey, not just be a limiting factor. So when you can see that, as a company, that your technology or your platforms are keeping you back or slowing you down, and if you're great, then in advance, because it takes time to plan and also build this transition, then I think it's time to at least consider it. You could say it's Mag or Composable for everyone, not necessarily, but I think if people take on the right people to advise them and gather the right team, I think a lot of companies could benefit greatly from it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, we've got some questions that are coming from the audience, so thanks very much for anybody that's asked them. Highly encouraged for anybody that's got some more questions to carry on asking. So first one is, what advice can you give for an organisation like mine that's not very digitally mature but would like to leapfrog into Composable? Do you want to take this or?
Sure.
Yeah.
Find yourself a good partner. I think it's one of them. So no, then make sure to be realistic about the plan, and be sure to be good at formulating what are the key goals that the business needs to deliver on, and then also get some input from different vendors and different people to how your organization should look like in the future and which are the steps to get there. So the organization will follow what is required from the partner and the platforms as well.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Any comments?
I think maybe just talk to different people in the industry, but also talk to people that you trust, maybe that are more mature. If you have someone, it could be, or try to network you towards one, because having those people like recommend an agency or something like that, that's kind of a guarantee stable, or at least really nice that they can not only work with us, but we really enjoy that collaboration. And it's important that you enjoy going to work, and that you feel like the technology is contributing and not being holding you back. So networking, just maybe also if you're not that mature, try to but hopefully the agency is gonna help you towards that, but keep things not simple, because that's a strong word to use here, but keep the focus where you need to have it, and don't build too much yourself.
Keep the scope down, get stuff out there, test it. Test it on maybe something that is not as crucial to your business, so you're able to kind of adopt into that way of working.
Completely agree. We've got a great question here. Speaking of investing in Composable and total cost of ownership, how did you, Martin, get the organisation on board?
Maybe I'm lucky because I have a very tech company, so that was pretty easy after my just me trying in general, because I was really hyped about when I was done with that half a year, pretty much just on and off research. I was pretty hyped about what vision this could bring to TRENDHIM. So just trying to again don't just come and say, oh, we got all this fancy, you know, tech and it's gonna be really great. More like, you know, show people what this vision is and what it can bring to the table in terms of capabilities, to try to be specific, like what can we do when we are there that we can't do today, and which things that are troubling us, you know, right now in the business can we solve with this technology. I would say that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think we've got a yes or no question here. Did you use a partner to implement PeopleVox?
Yes. It was Patchworks, if you wonder.
Excellent. Yeah, we're doing more and more work with them actually. They keep cropping up. Good stuff. We've got another one here. It's sort of a follow-on from one that we talked about earlier, but you know, the biggest organisational challenges when going composable. I think maybe if you just want to round things up with that. Mika, why don't you?
Sure. That are different. Of course, there is the contract part. We, as Martin said, the more systems, the more things we need to make sure are working and we have contracts on and so on. There is also going a bit more agile. It tends to become it tends to require more trust with your partners to work agile and to make sure that you're able to take those decisions as you go. Yeah. Got no further, I guess, right here. Yeah.
Brilliant. All right. Well, I think that's all the questions, guys. Feel free to carry on asking after the webinar has ended, either on the chat or just to get in touch with us directly. But yeah, I think that was really interesting discussion. Thanks both of you. I think it was fantastic hearing about your move towards, you know, Mac. And this webinar, I believe, is going to be available on demand. So it's going to be sent out to anybody that registered. Thanks a lot for attending, guys, and looking forward to continuing the conversation.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.